All right, welcome everyone. Before we begin the campaign, I just have a few questions to see if I qualify to run this game for you.
Qualify?
Yes. According to the internet, dungeon masters now require improv theater experience, professional voice acting capability, game design certification, and the ability to emotionally heal adults through goblin encounters.
Hmm. Yeah, sounds about right.
Great. Okay, question 1. If I forget a rule,
Bad DM.
oh, okay. If I don't do voices,
Immersion ruined.
ooh, oh, okay. If I spend 12 hours prepping and you ignore the main quest,
That's called player agency?
what if I just improv everything instead?
Lazy.
Okay, okay. What if I accidentally kill your character after you charged a dragon at level 2?
Toxic table environment.
Oof, okay. And what exactly are you bringing to this campaign?
Um, I made a rogue with dead parents.
Hi, I'm Tyson.
And I'm Mike. And we argue with dragons.
Welcome, listeners. My name is Tyson.
And I'm Mike.
We are arguing with dragons. Yeah. So, how are you, Mike? We always start these podcasts asking about the news, but I want to know how you are as a person.
Well, could be worse, could be better, such is the way of life. Back in the early 2000s, Blink 182 led with, "Where are you?" But they didn't think to ask, "How are you?"
This is true. This is true. That is a really good song too. I love that song.
It's a really okay song.
I don't like. Now, here's a hot take for you, folks. I
Uh-oh.
do not like The Nightmare Before Christmas. I think it
Hey,
is a
me neither.
stupid, terrible movie.
I
And
wouldn't call it stupid and terrible. It's written okayly.
right now
Okayly is a word now.
there are so many emo girls right now throwing down their phones and cellular devices and unsubscribing to our podcast.
You act like there's any girls that listen to our podcast.
I know there's at least one. There are 3 listeners, and the odds of them all being guys,
Pretty good,
totally.
actually, considering our target demographic.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair.
I do lament the loss of your wife as one of our listeners.
Oh, I know. I'm sorry, folks. My wife stopped listening somewhere around episode 3,
Yay!
mainly because she heard her husband say too many dick jokes. I'm,
Well, she knew what she was getting into with the relationship. It's her own fault.
I don't think she did because I met her at work and I'm a very professional work person. And then I get on a podcast with my best friend, and all of a sudden I'm just like, you got a small dick. So,
Feel free to bleep this next part. And don't you work at a.
thanks, Mike. Thanks.
Yeah, well,
Have you caught up on the boys?
almost. I still have to watch the episode from tonight. For those of you listening to this 100 years in the future, Wednesday, the 13th of May, 2026.
Yes. We generally record on Mondays, but Mike and I had kind of a rough week, I think, both of us. And
Yeah, a little bit.
I spent my entire Monday evening editing last week's episode so I could get it out by midnight. And normally that's the time we're recording our current episode. So we're a couple days behind, but
Yeah,
that's
I
okay.
spent my entire Monday night complaining that I had to stretch an extra 4 inches to reach the remote.
No, isn't it suck to get old?
Yeah, dude. Really, really does.
You
And that's
know,
why I use Icy Hot. Available at your local CVS.
oh
Not a
man,
sponsor.
not a sponsor. It should be. It should
Ah,
be. Icy Hot, where are you? Come through. I would take a 6-month supply, and every episode I will talk about how you made my lower back feel very cold and then very hot.
and I'd like to have a long, tough discussion with your CEO about how using oxymorons as a product name is not a good business model.
Oh shit. I watched about half of this episode that's out now. It is fucked up, of course.
Oh, that's every
Um,
episode.
I folks, The Boys is a really interesting show. It's an
Before we get too deep
adaptation.
into this, I feel like we should obligatorily say spoiler warning, but if you missed that train, it's already in Chattanooga, son.
Yes, skip forward, a few minutes here till you get to our lore dump or something if you don't wanna hear any spoilers. But, oh my god, did you get to the part with the Deep finally getting what he deserves?
Not quite, but I'm sure I can only imagine that he got eaten by a whale or something.
No, he's still alive.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking about the oil spill.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I got to that part, which,
Oh,
I mean, honestly, kind of funny to see him flopping around and getting cleaned off by relief workers like
ah,
a helpless baby duck being covered
yeah.
in palm olive or whatever that brand is.
This season has been very focused on Homelander and his mommy, daddy, or just issues in general. I'm
Yeah,
not sure what,
yeah.
but that's been kind of the heavy focus, and it's kinda making me sad because I miss Butcher being, like, the main focus of the show.
Yeah, well, you got a hard on for Carl Urban, so totally understandable. But
I
honestly,
fucking do. That man is such a good actor. I
oh
just
yeah,
love it.
homie, he could have me if he wanted me.
I think he would have some words about that.
I'm sure he would, but I'm just putting it out there. Carl, hit me up. Anyway, you kind of hit the nail on the head in an unexpected way with how the season's been going. He's having mommy issues about his dad.
Yeah, and it's just so fucking weird.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of an odd perspective to look at when I put it that way, but it makes complete and total sense in context.
Well, what I love is every single time he slips a little bit further into madness, they play that whole backwards jingle, and it just hits. It's wonderful. Whoever's creating this and writing this story, you guys are fucking great.
Yeah.
So that kinda leads us into tonight's topic, Mike.
Does it?
Yeah, telling a story.
Lay it on me,
I
sir.
I will. We're gonna talk tonight, folks, about what it takes to be a dungeon master. And tabletop gaming is something that Mike and I are very passionate about.
Yes,
We
absolutely.
attended a 3-day freaking convention that was just dedicated to tabletop gaming. But lots of people don't want to sit in that dungeon master chair because it's intimidating, it's scary.
It can be, yeah.
And, before I go any further though, Mike, I think we got to do a lore dump for our listeners who may not know much about D&D or what even a dungeon master is.
Yeah, yeah, I do agree. You should.
All right, folks, to be a dungeon master or game master if you're playing something other than D&D means that you are the storyteller. You are the one who sets the stage, you design the props, you control all the aspects of the world your players are adventuring in. You are in the narrative driver's seat, baby, and you get to decide if it's going to be a Sunday drive or a balls to the walls street race. You become the puppet master of all the actions that the non player characters take, using them to create anything from a deeply immersive scene of a song and dance in a tavern after a long day of questing to the dark and brooding big bad evil guy manipulating the kingdom for his own gain. You are basically God, but not in a sacrilegious way. You get to referee the rules, adding to them or throwing them out, all in the name of the rule of cool. Mike, what am I missing? There's got to be something I'm missing.
There's an awful lot, but we'll get into all of it.
All right. So, Mike, tell me about your first time being a dungeon master. What was it like?
Well, as you said, it's kind of a scary thing in all reality. Well, I'll put it into a little perspective from my own experience here. When I first DM'd, you had actually asked me personally if I wanted to run a game, and I was all about it. It seemed like such a fun time, such a great idea.
Oh
I
shit,
had
your first time DMing was with me?
Officially, yes.
Oh my god, I had no idea. Okay.
You're welcome for that little nugget. But anyway, my first official time DMing was at your behest. You had offered, "Hey, you wanna take over the DMing?" And I think you were just wanting to play as a character for a
Yeah,
while,
it
so
sounds about right.
I mean, totally understandable, and I'm sure every DM gets that feeling once in a while, but, the forever DMs know the pain, which I'm sure you felt a few times. But anyway,
It's an ache in my soul, Mike.
yeah, it's a good thing you're part of my biweekly game, so, yeah, there
Yes.
you go. Alrighty, but, you had invited me in to run a game. I was all about it. Sounded like a great idea. I'd enjoyed watching you do it a few times. Felt like I had the improvisational skills for it, and I definitely had a repertoire of voices even as a starry-eyed, bushy-tailed little 19-year-old.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I had this feeling in the pit of my stomach. It was just, "Uh-oh, what did I just agree to? Fuck!"
That's right. That is kinda how it feels sometimes.
Yeah, it certainly does. But then once you fall into a rhythm, you realize that the people at the table are just as immature and prone to just making dick jokes as you are.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's accurate.
Yeah. Just a nugget of advice for any aspiring DMs out there. If you want to run a game, just do it. Don't feel intimidated. Don't be worried because everybody at the table is going to love it. If they are your friends, if they are complete strangers that you found on Reddit, they could end up becoming some of your best friends, or they will be absolute dicks, and you will never want to speak to them again, one way or the other. As Ellen DeGeneres said before her poorly fated show fell off the air, just keep swimming. Just keep swimming.
That's not bad, Mike. I
Albeit in a
especially
very
like that
colorful
part
way.
where they're either gonna love you or they're gonna be complete dicks to you. I mean, and he's right, folks. He's right. Uh, I suggest the first time you run a game, have it be with friends who are gonna be understanding and easy on you. Don't go to strangers on Reddit for the very first time unless you are really confident. But, the Reddit game I played on, he was a brand new DM, and he did great.
Yeah.
He asked for advice every so often on, like, "What am I doing right and wrong?" I'm like, "Dude, don't change a damn thing. You're doing fantastic." So, if you could go back in time to that first night where didn't you throw us up against a fucking lich at, like, level 3?
You don't have to remind me of that.
Okay.
Mistakes were made, and it was my very first game ever run. I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
It's okay, it's okay. I've done equally
Exactly.
crazy shit like that myself. I
But
get
I
it, I'll get it.
do have
So
to edit a piece of your monologue there, bud.
what's that?
They're either going to love you or be complete dicks, and you should stick with your friends for your first game. If you stick with your friends for your first game, it's a guarantee they're gonna be complete dicks about it.
No, you might not be too far off because I didn't let you live that down for a while. And,
You still haven't.
I was hard on you, Mike, and I
Yeah, you
shouldn't have been.
were.
I barely even remembered that. I haven't brought that up in a coon's age.
It's dog's age, so,
Oh, it's whatever age you want it to be, Mike. Come on.
oh,
Anyway,
slow down there,
so
Epstein.
Ooh. Oh, that's good. I like that. What would you do differently if you could go back in time to that fateful night?
Uh, hard to say, really. Hard to say. But honestly, the biggest thing I would have changed would have been I would have prepped
Oh, that's fair. That's a
because
big
that is
deal.
the absolute one thing I did not do whatsoever. I leaned entirely too hard on my improvisational skills, which paid dividends and didn't at the same time. We have an inside joke that came of it,
Yeah, this is true.
despite
So,
my own
did
dismay at the
did we total party kill that
habit.
night?
No, we didn't.
I
You're
I'm
gonna make
trying
me say how we didn't, right?
Oh, no, I'm not. I can't
Well, for the
remember.
sake of making the podcast move forward, I'll go ahead and say it. There was a shower curtain made of ballistic material that was plus 10 to fire resistance. You threw a lantern and then hid behind it. And the lich died from burning up via spilled lantern oil.
Holy shit, we were fucking stupid kids, weren't we?
What do you mean we? I was the one running it.
You were, but I came up with that idea and it works. So,
Mhm.
have you ever total party killed anybody? Any groups?
Exactly one time. That
Oh,
was a game about 5 or so years ago. I was playing online with some friends. It was all via text. There was no voice either, so it was very long and drawn out. But the party lasted a good 3 months of once weekly plays. And well, the total party kill ended up at the hands of the hill giant.
ooh, a hill giant. That's not one you hear very often.
No, it's not because they're usually pretty easy to take down. This party had just finished clearing out a goblin encampment and then were beset by the hill giant, who was the leader of the goblin encampment,
Hmm, interesting.
ruling the goblins with an iron fist. There you go. As you said, hill giants are not often thought of not as total party killers or as big bads.
No, they're not, but that would make a really good big bad for a, early, like higher low level party.
Yeah.
So cool, cool. So my first, I don't even remember my first DMing story. So I'm glad you have such a vivid memory of yours because mine was, God,
I only remember it because you never let me live it down.
I've I was 14 years old, I
Yeah.
think. So I'm 41 now. So you do the math,
I'd rather
but
not.
uh, I know that we were in a dungeon, and it's just hazy bits. We had a dungeon. There was a dragon at the end. I had bought the second edition starter rule box and had a few friends come over, and we used the pre-made characters that came with it.
I was playing Power Rangers with my friends because we were all 9.
I remember the feeling more than anything, though. Like how I'd get so excited over the idea of a new character over the character sheets. I had piles of index cards after that first couple games where I had monsters and NPCs written down. I had towns, their populations. Like I collected all that stuff. And the nostalgia is just like it emanates from me because I remember the feelings I had rolling six-sided dice to roll stats and to make, custom characters for playing or DMing. And I got stuck at a very early age being the forever DM, and it it really shaped me because I became a leader amongst my nerd group. And, they kept coming back, so I felt like I must have been doing something right. But, to all the folks out there who are scared to get into this or they look up, I see it all the time on Reddit. I'm about to DM for my first time, help me. Or I'm gonna start writing a campaign story for two of my friends. What do I do? You know, that's something I want to talk about tonight. So,
Okay.
what we're going to do, Mike, we're going to make an attack roll on
Uh-oh.
common misconceptions about being a dungeon master. So
Alright.
many opinions online make it hard to see the forest through the trees. So, Mike, let's roll initiative.
I got a 20.
So, the first and most common misconception is that the dungeon master is responsible for everyone's fun.
Nope. False. 100% false.
Abso-fucking-lutely, that's false. Every player at the table is responsible for contributing to the experience. The DM is not a party director or babysitter or the fun police, you know?
I
They
mean, they have to be the fun police to an extent.
Oh, sometimes, yeah, that's true, that's true, but the DM is responsible for a good chunk of the game, yes, but they're not responsible for your fun players, so get that shit out of your mind right now.
Correctamundo. They are not responsible for your fun. You make your own fun.
Yes, we have fun at home. That's what my mom would
Why
say. Yeah.
aren't you having fun?
Yes.
Go have fun now.
The next misconception,
Lay it on me.
good DMs need to know every rule.
No,
I
absolutely
argue
not.
I argue that a good DM doesn't even need the DMG.
Mhm.
And for you uneducated
Precisely.
listener, the DMG is the Dungeon Master Guide, which is book 2 of the 3 books you usually buy to play Dungeons& and Dragons.
At
And I
least in
argue
earlier versions, because now you need this, that, the other thing, 5 extra supplements, and a lifetime subscription to Wizards of the Coast monthly.
yeah, fuck that. All you need is a starter kit, ladies and gentlemen, and an imagination. You do not need to know every rule. You need to know how to establish pacing and set a tone, and you need some improving. That's it. You don't need to be a rules lawyer. Rule obsession kills momentum faster than anything in a good game. Google will tell you a rule in like 10 seconds from searching if you must know right then and there. But the key to being a good dungeon master is ruling on the fly how you feel it should work, then looking the rule up later. Because if you stop your game every time you need to look a rule up, A, your game's going to take way longer, but B, your immersion's gone. So just don't do it. Just make a ruling on the fly, look it up later. Tell the party if you were right, tell them if you were wrong, whatever. But just keep the game going. Just have fun
Yeah,
with it.
most certainly.
All right, the next one. You need to elaborate world building before session 1.
Mm, that's kinda why there's a session 0, if I'm being honest.
Well, true. Session 0 is very important for getting together with your friends and talking about the kind of story you want to run.
Exactly,
But
and I
as
would argue very strongly that you should have at least an element of what kind of world you're looking at in that session 0.
oh, for sure, for sure. But and as I've painstakingly found, because I've created this, 52-page guide to Alduin, my world, and distributed it to all my players long before session 0. Most players will ignore roughly 80% of your lore. And it's true because I'm like, "Did you read the guide?" And they're like, "Nope, still didn't read it, and we've been playing for 3 months."
Sounded like you were pretty close to, tearing up there, bud.
Well, yeah, it was disappointing to know that so many people didn't care to read, even 10 pages of that with the lore and all that. But,
I read a
you
good
know,
part of it because 'cause I'm a good boy.
that's okay. And, it's okay that they didn't read it. Players will, they'll read what they're interested in and they'll ignore what they're not. So if they get 20%, cool.
Yeah.
But
Kinda
what
harkens back to your comment about the DM not even needing the DMG. It's there if you need it. If not, just enjoy the world.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So your lore dump really isn't that important. I argue that if you're going to start playing and you're interested in homebrewing a world, you don't even need 80% of your world fleshed out. You just need the basics. You need a compelling town, a conflict that'll get your players invested, and memorable NPCs. That matters
Mhm.
way more than hearing about 4,000 years of elven trade history.
Yeah, very true, but, I will admit there's something about having something that you created so lovingly and crafted with your own mind and your own hands being appreciated. There's something to be said about that.
There is. And I have a friend named Jeremy, and Jeremy, if you're listening, hi.
I have a few friends
Um,
named Jeremy too, actually.
so he's been playing D&D longer than me, and I've been
Hmm.
going on for, 30 years almost now.
Do you think it's
Um,
possible we have the same friend, Jeremy?
it's possible, but Jeremy told me I was awestruck by how much you've put into your world, and he thought it was amazing that, so many things were fleshed out, and he's admitted that to me that he's a lore whore. That's what he lives for, is hearing about all the lore and all that.
And you know what? I
Um,
will agree with him on that. The world you built is something to be beloved.
and I hope I don't fuck it up by trying to overdo it because there's so many ideas I have all the time, and I'm always like, "How can I make this work in my world?" But, back on topic, you don't need to know all that. If you're starting as a DM and you're trying to get your feet wet, just come up with a town. You don't need a world. You don't need a province. You don't need a huge elaborate map. Just one little town with a problem, and only your players can solve that problem. That will mean more to them than anything, and that gets the ball rolling. Then when they leave the town, you just keep expanding out. It's called the outward spiral of world building. It's a wonderful thing. Next one. This one hits home because I've been called this before. The DM is the enemy.
Boo.
Exactly. The DM who tries to beat players usually creates paranoid, miserable tables. And I am a firm believer that challenge is good. You want to challenge your players. But as our previous guest on the show, Travis, would say, not every encounter needs to be a challenge, Tyson. He's right. I mean, maybe I should give him some kobolds to just, fillet and trash just to show off his power, as male power fantasy as he called it in that episode. But challenge is good.
Yeah.
Vindictive punishment is just showing off your ego though. And
Yeah, I will agree with you on that to a point. To a point.
all right, let's hear your point.
Well, I will bring that up in the form of a story. I was playing in a campaign with a few friends, our good old buddy Travis included, and we were a ragtag band of adventurers just out seeking our fortune and fame. At one point, we started being hunted by a goose. Sounds memey, sounds silly, but we would kill the goose, it would evaporate into a cloud of dust, and then, sure enough, a couple of days later, it would be back attacking us again. It
What a
had
silly goose.
exactly. It had all the basic stats of a regular ass goose. Dies in one hit, basically, from my barbarian's axe. Didn't seem like much, but it always came back. Then we went up to face against a boss, a demon. And wouldn't you know it, that fucking goose is here again. So, me being the gigantic brained barbarian that I was, I decided to throw the goose at the demon as a distraction. Demon catches the goose, and well, we skipped about 400 steps, and it turns out that that goose was a true polymorphed form of the demon lord Orcus.
Oh,
And we just handed it to one of the only creatures in existence that could revert him to his normal form.
well, that was silly of you.
Sillier than the goose itself.
Oh man. So
That
did
was a
the
bit of revenge on us for torching a town.
oh well, sometimes players deserve a little bit of
Yeah,
shellacking now and
they
then.
need to be spanked into line, absolutely, especially if they decide to be murder hobos. Nobody
Yes.
likes a murder hobo group. Get the
So
fuck off my table.
yeah, so the DM isn't the enemy. Okay. But
But they certainly
the
can be the antagonist.
well, the true enemy of player characters that play like that are consequences.
Mhm.
And just because your DM players, I'm talking to you, gives consequences for your actions does not mean they are trying to be an adversarial DM.
Mhm.
And
Got
likewise,
that
dungeon
right.
masters, you are not out to kill your players. Now, you are playing the role of people who are out to kill your players, though. So you need to know the difference.
We are on a roll
Go
tonight with those good points.
Yes. Go out and find the book. It's called The Monsters Know What They're Doing. This book changed my life.
Did it?
His name is Keith Amon. This book's available on Audible if you're into audiobooks like me, and it's also available on Amazon in a hardback edition, which I also own and loaned to my good friend Travis, who was going to run a campaign. And I said, "You need to read this book." This book goes through the fifth edition Monsters Manual, and it literally breaks down the monster psychology and stat block and explains to you the tactics that that monster would use in combat. And my God, you would think I was an adversarial DM when the monsters actually know what they're doing.
Yeesh. I'll tell you what, dude. That pack of goblins does not seem quite so pushover-ish now,
No,
do
no,
they?
goblins are now terrifying all the way up to like level 3.
Yeah, yeah.
if they're played correctly. So, before we get too far in the weeds there, the next one, you must say yes to player creativity.
Absolutely not.
No, fuck no. Bad ideas should fail. Okay. Ideas that players have that blatantly violate the rules of the game should fail. Ideas that the players have that, kind of stretch the rules out, you can let them happen, but you have to understand
Let
that
them
anything
cook. Let them cook.
you have to understand that anything the players can do, so can the monsters.
Mhm.
So you have to think about the consequences of that because there's that word again, consequences. Unlimited yeses end up creating chaos and it creates inconsistency. And players who think consequences are optional are the players you will not want at your table. Promise you that.
I don't want no consequence, consequence, consequence,
Consequences.
consequences of my actions chasing me right now.
So the next common misconception, railroading is always bad.
That one I'm a little shaky on.
Well, I think that is a completely false statement because I have had so many tables where I've sat there and I've got a story and I can't get my players to face any direction. Either they don't trust each other, there's something going on in the town that they think is the main story when it has nothing to do with anything. But
The little girl playing with the bunny over there in the garden is absolutely not a world-ending threat.
structure is necessary in a story, and it's necessary in Dungeons and Dragons or any other role playing game at the table. You have to have some structure. This is a collaborative storytelling game. So the players are telling the story with you, but most players secretly want some direction because total freedom ends up becoming paralysis. Have you ever had too many choices and you can't make up your mind? Well,
Oh, for
I'm
sure.
talking to you, Netflix. I mean, you end up not knowing what to watch or what to do because there's too many choices in a world where anything goes.
And
So,
whenever I'm faced with that kind of decision where the answer does not just fly out at me or I spend too long thinking about it, especially with streaming online, I just go back to watching Elementary again or Archer.
yeah, I know. I have the same thing. I have these a few shows that I will just go back and rewatch. The Office, Star Trek Deep Space Nine. If I can't figure out what's on, guess what's on? One of those.
Yeah, I've rewatched Elementary, the entire series, 8 seasons no less, 4 times in the past 2 years.
The next common misconception then goes right off that last one. Improvising everything makes you a better DM.
It can certainly strengthen the muscles, but it will not create the perfectly chiseled abs that you want.
No, you know, pure improv produces incoherent worlds. And if you are purely improving everything, you're never going to remember the names unless you're writing it all down as you go.
Exactly.
But
But there's no shame in having a tavern owner named Kevin.
oh, no, not at all. Use basic names, folks. Don't
Yeah,
go to a name generator website. It's okay. Lie, cheat, and steal. It's fun.
absolutely. Plus, I mean, you don't have to make everything Tolkien-esque. You don't
Yeah,
have to be flowery with every word you say. And
if
if your
you're
players expect any differently, then shame on them. They should be ashamed of themselves and their families.
I'm sorry, but the best way to make your players hate your big bad evil guy is to name him Keith.
I mean, you want to hate the BBEG, but sure, be a little inventive on big important decisions, as opposed to Fisherman number 2, who had been casted by an extra that never shows up in another movie ever.
Oh man. Oh man. All right, next
Uh,
one. Voice
do
acting.
we comment on popular culture a little too much?
There's no such thing, Mike. There's no
You know
such
what?
thing as
Shame
too
on me
much
for
pop
thinking
culture.
that way. I'm sorry.
Exactly. Voice acting makes you a good DM.
No,
No. Doing voices is fun.
it
I will
is
say this. And I am not as good at it as some people, but I try and I
like me.
love. Yeah, Mike's a good voice actor. He could probably if he honed it in, he could probably have a career doing it.
Oh, for sure. Except I
Um,
live in Iowa.
well, I mean, I would think that that's a job you could do remotely.
Potentially, but
You
you're
should
not going to find an agent unless you live in the same city as them because they're going to want an in-person meeting.
you should read audiobooks, Mike. I think you'd be good at that.
Yeah, that's something you can mail in.
Voice acting makes you a good DM. No, it does not. A funny goblin voice does not fix a shaky, improvised crap story or weak encounters or the fact that you didn't prep anything and you're just kind of flying off the seat of your pants with no idea where you're going.
Yeah, you
So,
tell him, Tyson.
yeah, exactly. Those funny goblin voices are they're fun, but it's not what makes a good DM.
This is also a goblin voice.
Yeah, I mean, Mike is truly a real life goblin, folks.
Well,
Um, no,
dice goblin, sure.
Snarglefart was a real life goblin, and we interviewed his ass, so,
Oh no, we
But
interviewed his face.
but personality and mannerisms of your non-player characters, that truly is where the money is. If you want them to be memorable, give them unique personalities. It doesn't have to be a unique voice, but give them funny mannerisms. People will remember that more than they'll remember the silly voice you did. Because if the next session rolls around and you don't remember what voice you gave him, guess what? He's gonna sound different.
Very true. Now, just a free piece of advice for those of you out there who may potentially think about doing some sort of voice acting, voiceover, etc., for your campaigns. The way I do it is when I map out a campaign and I have some important characters listed, I will put an actor or character next to the character name so that I have a reference.
That is genius, Mike. Pure fucking genius. And that was
Even if you're
actually
not a perfect mimic, like I can't do Peter Griffin all that well, but at the same time, I try.
well, what's fun is that that was actually in a Dungeon Master prep guide I listened to where they talked about the way you design personalities and characters that it's a really good hack is to base them off of a character from a TV show you like.
Like
And
Hacks with Tyson and Mike.
it doesn't have to be a shot for shot remake of that person, but that person has a personality, has a voice, has a look, and they can have a completely different name in your world and a completely different job and all that, but you've got the base for your character right
Mhm.
there and done for you.
Absolutely ever know that I based the Count Holod Crow, the vampire leader of an entire town, off of Fons.
Yeah, right? Um,
Bonus
now
points
one
if you
thing
even know who that is.
I don't, I'm sorry.
Didn't think you would.
I like to pretend I get all your references, but I generally don't.
Fons is an actor, not a character, so, be ashamed.
Okay, I am. I have disgraced my family.
Good boy.
What I like to do, like if I've got a dramatic and I did this once for a group, they were encountering a dragonkin, which is a reskin dragonborn in my world, and he was a psychotic paladin. He had been manipulated by an extra dimensional force and given godlike powers to rid the world of magic. Him and his band of paladins were on a mission to cleanse magic from the world, and they could create these little fields of anti-magic around them to, basically shut down all the magical items and spells for my players for like 2 turns. Boy, the looks on their faces when that happened, oh my gosh. But anyway, when they finally tracked down the leader that was, standing directly outside the portal that they needed to close to cut him off from his power, he had a very dramatic speech right at the beginning. So, what I did is, on one of my days off of work, I sat down in my basement and I recorded that speech, threw it into Audacity, and I edited my voice until I sounded like a dragon. And then I threw some background music to it, and I played that at the table. Oh, they loved it. It was wonderful. So that kind of stuff you can do, and it's fun, but it's not needed. It doesn't make you a good DM?
Yeah.
So next on the list, the DM's story is the most important thing.
Nope.
Exactly.
I can tell
Folks,
you what is the most important thing with exactly one word.
what's that?
Fun.
fun. Yeah, there you go. But, if you think your story is the most important thing and that nobody else's stories matter and nothing the player characters matter unless it's about your story, you are now an unpublished fantasy author.
Or you're
And
E.L. White trying to read a rendition of 50 Shades of Grey at a, Twilight convention.
ew,
Yeah,
what an analogy that was. But, player agency matters, and it matters more than protecting your plot twists. So let go of your story a little bit, DMs. You can have a story and you can gently redirect your players to that story over and over again, but let them explore your world. Let them get in trouble. Let them have fun. That's
key word in
okay.
that entire argument was explore.
Explore. Yes, explore your world. Let them explore your world, DMs. Your story is not the most important thing.
I think you'll find
Next.
that you're having more fun by explaining what they discover rather than telling them what they should be discovering.
Exactly. Well said, Mike. Next, homebrew automatically makes your campaign unique.
Not even slightly.
No, most homebrew is just unbalanced mechanics wrapped in ego. And
Or
I say that,
improvised mechanics because you overtuned your monsters, me.
yeah, and I have a hard time with this one because I feel that way a lot. That homebrew does make your campaign more unique. But here's the thing: originality comes from execution. It doesn't come from having 37 or 26 or 82 custom races to choose from. I'm talking to you, fucking Wizards of the Coast. It comes from how you present it and how you let people explore it, how you let people use it. So, do you need a homebrew world for that? No. No, go pick up a module. Especially if you're not feeling particularly creative, steal something from somebody else who is and run it and change the little details here and there if you want or don't change anything,
Or
you
if you're
know?
really feeling uninventive, go play Curse of Strahd.
No, I mean, yeah. I mean, everybody and their dog has played something from Curse of Strahd.
Yeah.
Even me, who's I have never ran a module in my life. And I sit next to Jeremy, who's been playing for longer than me, who has never run a homebrew campaign in his life. He only runs modules, but he's a hell of a creative guy. And I'm just like, how do you do that without going insane? He's like, well, it takes care of all the time consuming shit in this module. And I just change the details I want to change. And I'm like, that's genius. But at the same time, I still just can't do it. I just don't want to
Hey,
do it.
absolutely. Now, I do have just a little flavor to sprinkle on here, like a bit of salt ricocheting off my elbow onto the delicious steak that really didn't need salt. But I was told by a GM on a game I was playing once, we were doing a Spelljammer campaign,
Oh,
which I knew nothing about Spelljammer. And I said, okay, so this is going to be a space adventure. I thought we were doing fantasy. And then he pulled out a gigantic map. It was a map that he himself had created, and he said, "Okay, I want you to point to any part on this map that is of the Spelljammer world." And based on the limited knowledge I had of the Spelljammer module, I looked around. I couldn't find anything that I recognized. They said, "See, that's my exact point. This little cluster of stars here and this swirling galaxy there, those are all a part of the Spelljammer module. However, if you look at a blown up Spelljammer map, this little map that I made over many hours is a pinprick on that big Spelljammer map. How
really right.
much you play in a single campaign over many years, you may never ever see the whole map."
Yeah, that's something that I love about Star Wars and running in that universe. You can create a whole world, or you could use a world that's already made, and you could run an entire 1 to 20 campaign on that world. You'd never have to leave. You don't need a spaceship. You've got everything you need right there. You got an entire fucking world. It's just wild. It's just
That's the
wild.
thing, though. You don't have a world, you have a universe.
Yeah, you got a whole
You decide
universe.
what the world is.
But, what I'm getting at, folks, is that it doesn't automatically make it unique.
Not at
So
all.
most homebrew campaigns are absolutely not unique. No.
Not at all. Mine is based on a Skyrim mod.
Yeah, right? Exactly. So, character death means the DM failed.
No,
There's a
character death
misconception.
means that the DM was doing their damn job.
Yeah, no. Sometimes players make stupid decisions.
Exactly.
And if you remove consequences from this game, what are we fucking even doing?
We're
You know?
doing Miss Rachel DMs a game.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, Miss
Gonna
Rachel.
hold your hand and do nursery rhymes with you the whole way.
My wife does the best impression of Miss Rachel, and my 3-year-old daughter got a phone call from Miss Rachel today, and she just loved it so much.
That,
It
that
was
is the
so
cutest
fucking
fucking
wholesome.
thing in the universe.
It was so fucking wholesome. I loved it.
Having met your, 3-year-old daughter before, she is just a peach.
I know she got a medal today for her attempts at little kids soccer, and
Oh.
she was so distraught about not doing very good that she got a call from Miss Rachel to tell her she was great, and I just wanna cry.
Little side tangent, I think
Uh,
that, participation trophies are a terrible idea.
I don't, because that little girl, it made her day to get a freaking medal, and
Absolutely, but children don't understand the idea of you don't always win.
well, no, that's okay, but I'll give you a participation trophy for attempting your first DM game. So,
Yeah, exactly, and I didn't get a participation trophy, I gained a lifelong friendship
you did.
with multiple
So,
people.
character death, it happens. Don't give it up. All right, next. You should balance every encounter perfectly.
No.
No, absolutely fucking not. Don't be predictable.
If every single game is perfectly balanced with absolutely no edges, it's a 50-50 chance whether you win or lose.
Yeah, the world does not revolve around encounter math, folks. Some fights should feel completely ridiculously overwhelming. Some should be easy. Yeah, Travis, I am saying it. Some should be easy. You fucking won, you bastard. Anyway, next, more lore equals better immersion. I've
More
never
lore, maybe not.
I've never heard a more bullshit statement in all my life. Immersion has lore is nice, yes, but immersion is about emotional attachment to the campaign. It's about the setting feeling real to you, the betrayals, the victories, the disasters, all of that. That's what players remember. That's immersion. They don't give a shit about your 12 pages of timelines of this ruler did this ruler did that. They don't care. That's book shit. Go write a book.
Absolutely.
Don't bother. I mean, if you wanna write all that stuff out, you wanna dig in like I dug into Alduin and write I do it because it's fun. I don't do it because I think it brings any serious immersion to my game. So,
I would argue strongly that a good lore basis through PEMDAS, Order of Operations, is going to lead to more immersion, but it's not a direct result of it.
n
You don't have a good lore basis, you don't generate interest, thereby no immersion.
when your players pick up an object and they wanna know its history, you just have some bullshit in mind, or
Absolutely.
write down some bullshit on a card and just pull it out and use it when you need it, and then just write the title of that item on top and throw it to the side and save it for later.
Yeah,
You know
that
what I
just
mean? That kind
kind
of
of
shit
makes me
works.
think of the scene from Con Air where they have a whole bunch of trash on the ground mapping out an attack plan.
Oh,
Okay, this can is a fire truck. We use this fire truck to box in the police cars. Okay, what's that? That's a rock.
I love it. All right, next session prep needs maps, minis, music, MacGuffins, and miscellanea.
That it does. It's a lot of M's.
There's a lot of M's, but no, tables need clarity.
That
They
they do.
don't need a Broadway production budget. They don't need an entire village worth of minis. Not everything needs a map. I'm just gonna say it. Not every fucking moment needs a map. Tyson, not every moment needs a map.
I've told that to you numerous times, and you always laugh in my face and call me stupid and say that I did deserve to get broken up with on my birthday.
Damn, that's oddly specific. Um,
Well, it was your fault, so
so when I say that, folks, I mean, I say it as somebody who's been playing online a lot lately, and I feel like you need to have a little more for online players because you're competing with the awful bitch that is ADHD. and they're not right there at your table looking at you as you describe something, so you don't know if they're paying attention or not. So I try to give more visuals. But you don't need all that stuff. You just need clarity, momentum, and fun. You just need a coherent story and, like I said, a village with a problem that only your players can solve. And if you just describe that village and do it all theater of the mind, cool. That's awesome. I used to do that all the time back in high school. And, we had little glass beads for character counters when we needed to map something out on a table. And when they said, "Can I reach him in my turn?" We just guessed. You don't need squares on a map to tell you whether or not you get there.
No, you
I
need
mean,
hexes.
I like hexes way better. That's a whole nother episode.
I enjoy hexes, but
I
I
fucking
like
love
squares
hexes.
more because it's easier to work with.
I like hexes because now you have a diagonal.
Yeah, very true, but you still have a diagonal with squares too.
You don't need all that stuff to play. You just need some friends, some dice, and an open mind.
That you do.
If if players derail your plans, the session is just ruined.
No.
If the players don't derail your plans, what the fuck are you playing? You ain't playing D&D. You ain't playing a tabletop role-playing game.
You might as well be playing Monopoly.
I know if the campaign collapses because your players made an unexpected choice and went left and when they should have went right, your campaign sucked.
Yeah, well,
They
no,
should not
I
derail
would
your plans.
I would argue that if the players derail your plans and all is lost, you suck. Not being adaptable is like drinking poison to save yourself from being shot.
Yeah, so, I mean, we're kinda being hard on you if you're a new DM or you're thinking about DMing. If they go left instead of right, just change the outcome that they went right to them going left. I mean, it's as simple as that, folks. Don't overthink it, but be ready, have some improv in mind, and don't let your campaign be so fragile that one unexpected choice will change it, you know? Next, DMing is mostly just storytelling. That is
No,
wholly incorrect.
I don't know about wholly.
Oh, no. Storytelling's important, yes,
I would
but
say it's 50% incorrect because if you
as
don't tell a
are
story, you're not DMing, you're playing
uh,
Monopoly.
you can theoretically, folks, use being a dungeon master on a job application because being a DM is decision making, crowd management, pacing, improv, and conflict resolution.
All of that wrapped up in one nice burrito.
Yeah, and it's fun. It's a fucking game that you get to play with your best friends. I mean, shit. And I am literally building life experience. This is win freaking win, baby.
And better yet, it's collaborative storytelling.
Yeah.
That shows you
Yeah.
can work with a team.
Yeah. I am a team player. So
Exactly.
there's more to DMing than just storytelling. And be ready for that, folks.
Oh,
Next,
for sure. There's more to it, but it's a big part.
the players always know what they want.
Absolutely the fuck not. They almost never know what they want.
No, they don't. They may think they want that +5 sword of beast slaying, but they won't have fun anymore once they have it. I
Exactly. You give them the powers of a god, they become as bored as God.
Right, exactly. They want freedom, but they don't want, you know, they say they want freedom, but often really what they want is good hooks and good motivations for doing the things they're doing. So,
Most certainly do.
all right,
Most
next.
certainly do.
The DM should never say no.
The DM should say no more than they say yes.
I tend to agree. I think some players like to weaponize creativity. Travis, again, I'm talking to you, buddy. The hijack tone, the abuse loopholes, the spotlight domination. Now, Travis isn't guilty of that, but the abuse loopholes, man, boy, let me
I'm
tell you.
guilty of spotlight domination.
Yeah, and that's okay. But boundaries are a part of good DMing. So set your boundaries and set them during session zero. Hey, I'm not going to let you bring in things that level 20 DM talks about. We're not doing that. We're running a normal, low power campaign and I want good story and not bullshit rolls. Okay, talk about it during session zero. But boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. Do not play with people, dungeon masters, to break your boundaries. If you set boundaries, those players better understand them. And if you set them early, then they will not be surprised. So,
Exactly. Like me, for instance, when I'm playing with a new group, I try to get trigger warnings out of the way. I try to know people's triggers so I don't breach those boundaries.
yeah. Well,
That's all part of being
that's
a good person, not being a good
that,
DM.
that's very true. And that's a whole nother topic right there. So a DM has to be completely selfless.
No, not at all.
No. DMs, listen to me very carefully and closely. Your enjoyment matters too. Okay. Your campaign will not survive unless you enjoy the story you're telling and you enjoy the way your players are behaving at the table. If you aren't having fun, your players aren't going to have fun. And if your players are having all of the fun and you're fucking miserable, reevaluate, reassess, recalibrate.
I would argue that if anybody's miserable, reevaluate, reassess, recalibrate,
Yeah, if you got one player that's just not having a good time, go talk to him. Talk to him separate though. Talk to him
figure out
privately.
what's wrong and fix it.
Again, that's something just being a good human would do. So,
Exactly.
most of the time, the horror stories I see about Dungeons& and Dragons games falling flat or having problems all boil down to communication. Just communicate, just talk. It's okay. Just talk. They're your friends. They're gonna understand. There's no taboo, okay? Just talk. Talk it out.
And a problem player is like an ingrown toenail. If you don't dig it out quick, it's going to become a problem.
Yeah, yeah. Alright, next. Matt Mercer is the standard for Dungeon Masters.
No,
No,
Matt Mercer is the goal.
no. Matt Mercer shouldn't even be your goal, okay? He's got professional performers as players. Okay. These are professional voice actors, scripted players. Okay. They have a production team. Okay. They make content for your enjoyment. Okay. I'm not saying that their games are, completely fake and made up and scripted, but you should never, as a dungeon master, compare yourself to this man. Okay. He is literally doing this as a career, okay? And he has all the time in the world to put into it, and you don't. You don't have all of that stuff that he has. And yeah, I mean, he's smart. He's a great DM. His stories are compelling. He does fun voices and, he's got the whole shebang. But I've heard him say that he will take a town map and he will map every single house in that town just in case the players go there. And that is a exercise in futility, folks. Do not do it. Don't even try. It's not worth your time.
It's an exercise in futility for the average DM. Now, when you have it as a career like he does, that's just part of your job.
Yeah, so you will ruin your enjoyment if you try to compare yourself to him. So just don't. Don't even worry
Mhm.
about it. Every player deserves equal spotlight at all times.
At all times, no, but everybody deserves their chance.
Yeah, not every scene belongs to everybody, folks. This is a play and your players are the characters in that play. Okay?
Again, I
So
do shoulder some guilt.
oh, no, you're fine, Mike. You don't really hog the spotlight.
Well, no, but I do pop in with the dick jokes a little more than I should.
Well, that's fair, but like it's okay. Some players naturally drive certain story arcs more than others, and that's okay. Like Travis plays a barbarian in our campaign right now that I run. He doesn't have a big story arc. He is hack and slash and he's got a little story that he's pursuing, but he doesn't hog the spotlight because he's not directly involved with the main story.
Right.
And that's okay. He knew that coming in. Whatever. But not every scene belongs to everybody. So don't try to force that. Next, rules lawyers are always bad.
No.
I actually love having a rules lawyer at the table, like at least one.
Now, I'm going to make this abundantly clear. If you have more than one rules lawyer, forget it. You'll get nowhere. You need
They
one
better,
rules lawyer and only one.
if you have two, their answers had better always be the same every single time and
Mhm.
consistent. Because if one's saying that it's this way and the other's saying it's that way, there's a bigger problem at your table.
It's gonna end up that one of them is wrong, usually the same one every time, and then just becomes a, nattering fight between the 2 of them every single week, and it makes everything drag on way longer than it needs to.
Yeah, and sometimes your rules lawyer, folks, if you trust your rules lawyer, listen to them because if they can tell you, "Yep, this is the way it goes," and then you know how to rule at the table. They're here, they're helping you. They're helping you, dungeon masters, so that you don't make a stupid rule.
Most certainly.
And but in the end, know that if the rule that they're quoting verbatim, from the book doesn't fit your narrative, then you are perfectly okay to ignore that rule.
Absolutely, and
Gary
shame on
Gygax
them
himself
if
said,
they do put it in there.
"The rules are only there as a guideline." Okay.
Exactly. So find yourselves a good rules lawyer and make sure it's not a rules public defender.
Yeah, there you go. Lastly on my list, dungeon master burnout means that you're weak and you just suck and you shouldn't even do it.
No, it just means that you are a functioning, living person that has needs, wants, aspirations, and everything else in between.
Yeah.
Leave people the fuck alone.
Yeah, so most of the time DMs burn out because they over prep and or they try to overproduce a game when in reality it doesn't take that much. It doesn't take that much work. I probably put way too much effort into it and I burn myself out. That's why I'm always like, let me be a player. But
That's why
really,
we alternate weekends.
yeah, exactly. And DMs out there, if you have a passive player who just doesn't engage because they need to be constantly entertained in order to be engaging, that can wear you the fuck out too.
You
And
just tell them that you're not their dancing bear, and if they don't like it, they can find a different game.
yeah, I mean, call them out and don't be afraid, dungeon masters, to kick a player out if they are ruining everybody's fun.
Be
Okay.
sure to give them a chance first, and if they don't shape up, then show them the fucking door.
Yeah. So, whew, that's quite the list, Mike.
A lot more of a list than I had expected it to be honest.
Something I want to tell you, dungeon masters, there's a certain satisfaction to running a game, and you'll never experience this as a player. It is a pure dopamine hit when your painstakingly over prepped villain dialogue just hits your table right in the feels. Or
Absolutely.
or when that map you spent 3 hours hyper focusing on gets an audible gasp from one of your players. When you guys walked into that pump room in the Dwarven Dam and saw the water elemental popping out of the water and the big hand coming out, and I heard Cassandra gasp audibly into the microphone. I
Yep.
was like, "Oh, man."
You're
I
like,
did
yes,
yes, that feeling, I just love it.
feed my ego
Yes.
that I
So,
may give you fun.
you get to sit in the director's chair of your personal box office fantasy movie, and you get to collaboratively act out the whole thing with your best friends. It is straight fucking magic, man. Straight
Yes,
fucking
it
magic.
is. Yes, it is.
So, Mike, you've been recently running a campaign, and it's lasted longer than any campaign you've ever run, right?
Mm, I don't know about the longest.
Oh,
Maybe the longest with you.
okay. So how long is your longest running campaign run?
This one, actually. So also yes.
Also, yes. Okay. So, what do you do when you prep? Like, what do you enjoy the most about your prep, and what do you hate?
Well, you know what? I'm going to be open, honest, and kind of peel back the curtains, give you a bit of behind the scenes here. When I prep, it is usually 4 hours of me creating with AI or with an animation program a boss intro video, and then about 20 minutes of actually writing where the story could go.
Wow.
Yeah. So my prep is generally going to be a lot of improv and just a couple of guiding points that the improv leads to.
Okay. You seem like the one who leans more on the improv than the structure. I get it.
Well, I did excel at improv in my drama department at school, We actually won a couple of regional awards for improv groups that I was a part of, although I do find improv comedy to be the absolute lowest tier of comedy.
I'm
Now, if
not
you're
a
doing a
huge.
one-man show, that's a completely different thing. That is basically stand up just with a little bit of salad dressing on it.
So what do you hate the most about your prep? Like, what is the what do you dread?
What I dread is that, well, I'm gonna be stroking my ego. Just be careful to cover your face, but I'm worried that it's not gonna have the impact that I want it to have, whether it be part of the main story or even a side story. I want to chase that audible gasp that you were just talking about, but if I don't achieve it, I feel slightly demoralized, and as a person with extreme anxiety, unmedicated and undiagnosed, I very strongly fear that I will never feel that.
Well, that's deep, Mike. It hurts my heart to hear you say that.
Well, in a way, I am both self-sabotaging and self-supporting here, because when I do feel that, I get that eek in my soul of the "there is a God" argument. It just hits me just suddenly when I do get that reaction, and I feel just so good. It's not even the dopamine rush that you were describing, it's about a layer deeper.
I hear you. I hear you.
Being worried that I won't feel that dopamine rush just makes the actual feeling of it just that much more akin to devouring a big plate of chocolate mousse.
Oh, I love chocolate mousse.
Yum, yum, yum.
So, one of my favorite things, Mike, about prepping, I think, is seeing that story come together in a way that, like, I make a storyboard is how
Oh,
I
yeah.
do it.
It's all coming together.
So, like, I use Roll20 to do my prep because I can lay out the scenes in squares on it and visually see and reorganize scenes. And I like to do interactive pins on the maps where I don't have to, like,
You don't
what I
have
don't
to
like.
over explain.
Exactly. I don't like a players walking into a market and then me having to spend 20 minutes going over this list of shit that this vendor sells.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so I make the
And,
list one time and I give that to everybody.
yeah, and I'm
Eh
gonna be totally honest with you. In playing your campaign with that option available on Roll20, being able to just mouse over and see a list of the shopkeeper's goods and stuff, it
hmm.
feels like a video game
That's exactly what I go for.
in a good way.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean,
I
there are some aspects of D&D that are video gamey in a bad way, but then there's things like that that just add whimsy,
I know.
and I love it.
I I'm glad you like it because it takes time
Oh, no, no,
to
no, I
make
don't
the
like it, I love it.
of it. I want some more of it. And so DMs, I strongly suggest, give that a try.
Yeah.
Find the things that cut out the painstaking labor of running a game or get in the way of you running a game and show them, just be like, "Hey, here you go." I love making maps too. Like map making is one of my favorite things. So it's not unusual for me to spend 2 hours on one map, one battle map.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and I use, I'm not gonna lie, I use AI between for cutscenes in between stuff.
Oh, for
I've
sure. I
got
mean,
I've got
it's a
my
D&D
chat.
campaign. If you were to hire an artist to do a commission for every single map, every single player interaction, all this, you would have to be Elon Musk to play 6 weeks of a game.
Yeah, I mostly make my own maps, or I've gone to Drive Through RPG and buy a few maps every now and then to try to support those artists. I've looked through people's Patreon pages, and a lot of times I just can't find maps that solely fit the vision I have. So,
Absolutely.
and instead of rewriting my story to fit a map that I found online that somebody wants 15 bucks for, 5 bucks for, 4 bucks for, or whatever, I'll just go make my own. Highly recommend Dungeon Alchemist, Incarnate, wonderful map making tools. There's several different ones out there that you can use to make maps. I mean, there's Dungeon Fog was what I used before. That was really great. But I won't talk about all that. Go look up a YouTube video on how to do it. think we talked about this a little bit in one of our episodes where we talked about making maps and all that.
Absolutely, but one little nugget here, just for the cheapest and least capable of you out there. Would you like to know what I used to make my first maps for my first games?
MS Paint?
No,
What?
RPG Maker.
Oh, for PlayStation or for
Actually, there
computer?
is a PC version of it out there that's a lot more dynamic, and you can download online resources for it.
Oh, there's actually like 50 different play or computer versions of that
Well,
game.
yeah, but you know what I mean.
I do. I
I
actually have
used
it.
that to generate a lot of maps in some of my earlier games.
I had RPG Maker on PS1.
I did not because I never had a PlayStation because I make good choices.
I, uh, I gave up on it when I couldn't figure out how to make a key unlock a door. I I had this elaborate town made, I had the story, I had the characters, I had some monsters, some encounters. I had a good balance, and then we got to the first dungeon, and they had to unlock a door with a key, and it wouldn't work, and I was like, "I can't figure this shit out," and I gave up.
Yeah, in my late teens and early 20s, RPG Maker was pretty big shit, and I was part of a community and a lot of people I wish I could still talk to, but that was the only thing we had in common, so we didn't
Yeah.
stay friends.
Oh, that's too bad.
It
That's too
is.
bad. Alright, so, Mike, we're gonna do a skill check.
Ugh.
Oh, I rolled a 20. So, during this skill check, Mike, you're gonna give me a couple of scenarios, and I'm gonna tell you what I think a good DM would do and what I think a bad DM would do.
All right. That sounds like a fun exercise.
Alright, let's do it. Lay it on me.
All right. The bard tries to seduce the villain.
Oh,
How would you handle that well as a DM?
okay, so is the villain? Is the bard a male or a female?
Does it truly matter?
Oh, no, I guess not. So how do I handle that? Now, is he seducing him with his charming good looks and a charisma check? Or is he seducing him with some kind of mind control spell?
Yes.
Doesn't help me. So, ladies
Just
and
blanket
gentlemen,
statement
this
seduction.
is this is a pretty common one, to be honest. I'm gonna seduce the dragon.
And it's
Eh,
always the bard.
Tell your fucking bard to go be horny somewhere else because charisma checks and persuasion checks and all that are not mind control. And most mind control spells have very firm rules that go alongside them. So unless you want for your narrative, for your BBEG or your dragon or whatever to fall in love with your bard, tell them no. I'm not going to go from wanting to take over the world to wanting to fuck your bard. It's not going to happen. So my firm no, I would be a firm no. That doesn't work. Now, a bad DM is probably also going to say no, but a bad DM is going to not even let you try.
Hmm.
And I would firmly allow my bard to try. If that bard wants to do it, fine. Give it a shot. See what you got. Matt Mercer would say you can certainly try, and he's not wrong.
Well, I
So,
thought we just got done going on a rant for about 10 minutes about why you shouldn't be like Matt Mercer.
well, right,
Hold your hand out so I can slap it.
he is ow, damn it, Mike. But he is very good. He's very good at what he does,
That he is.
but you shouldn't try to be him, but it's a good point. You can certainly try.
I'm going to give my 2 cents on that.
Oh, okay.
Making it an automatic no is absolute folly. Absolute folly. You saying that a good DM is going to say no? That's incorrect. To the nth degree incorrect. Because not only does it take away player agency, but it could cause the story to veer off into territory of rigidness and kind of kill morale. Let's be honest here. Say a bard goes into a dragon's lair, full grown great worm tries to seduce it. I say, you know what? Roll for it. And if the bard rolls a 1, dragon burns him to a crisp. Breath weapon, done. Over with. Situation out of the way. Bard nat 20s it. Dragon looks up and says, "Bend over."
Look, here's a valuable life lesson, Mike. You can walk into a circumstance and a situation and do everything right, exactly how it was supposed to happen, and you can still fail. And that
Absolutely.
is called life, folks.
Very true.
There are some things that you should just accept aren't going to happen. Now, a good DM, like I said, unless narratively he wants his villain to fall in love with the bard, that should not work.
Now, if it's the BBEG, I can see your point, but if it's a small time villain or just
Well,
a
you
bump in
said
the road kind of
your
situation,
your situation was BBEG.
that was Dragon. Yes, that was just an example. Now, all I'm saying is have just a little bit of flexibility here to let the story blossom a little bit.
Oh,
It
that's
could lead
wonderful.
to a hilarious recurring relationship. You never know.
Yeah, it could also
Look
lead
at the
to
dragon in Shrek.
I would rather not. We talked about that in the last episode.
That we did, yes,
Anyway,
but at the same
all right.
time, Eddie Murphy got laid, and that's the important part.
Okay. Next scenario, Mike.
All right, players ignore the main quest entirely. How would you handle that well?
As as an experienced DM, I've had this happen numerous times. Um, and it's okay to get them back on track if they are completely off kilter. There should be consequences for them ignoring a main quest. And that consequence should be make your quest time bound. So if they know the quest is there and they're just ignoring it and don't want to do it, have the quest have consequences if it's not done in a certain time. Like, okay, well, for instance, I gave a quest to you guys because this town you come across had dried the river had dried up because some bandits shut the water off at a dam upriver. And had you guys ignored that, the consequences were that that town would eventually no longer be a town because they had no water source. And that's how you guide players back to the world of reality. You give them consequences for ignoring it.
Hmm.
And that is the best way to do it, folks, in my true DM opinion.
How would you do
Um,
it badly?
how would I do it badly? I think the bad way to do it is to railroad them onto it, to
Yeah.
be honest. I think forcing them to only do that one thing and taking away their ability to explore other options would be the bad way to do it. That's
And
the
I agree
situation
with you.
where railroading can be okay if you're in a situation where structure matters, but like a dungeon, for instance. But railroading usually, it's not necessary if you're creative enough. You
Mhm.
know,
See, if the
it's
players are focusing on a single corner in a single room in a dungeon, uh-oh, they didn't notice the beholder.
well, there's something to be said that video games have actually taught us how, as I think they've taught me how as a dungeon master, how to have a story be on rails but still feel open world,
Sure.
because many games do that. And that is something that takes some talent to develop, I think. But once you do that process, your characters have this wonderful open world experience and they never even knew that they were on freaking railroad tracks the whole time.
Kinda like the original Legend of Zelda. There is a side quest to get a sword upgrade. That is it.
Yeah, well,
You don't even need it to beat the game.
no, you don't really need the big Goron sword and freaking Link to the Past either,
Ocarina of Time.
well, it's in Link to the Past too. They just don't call it that. But
Exactly.
all right, Mike, any more?
Yeah, a rules lawyer challenging the rule rather mid-combat. How would you handle that badly?
How would I handle it badly?
Yeah.
Handling that badly would be stopping and pulling the book out and looking up the rule.
Hmm.
That
I
is the
will
worst possible way to handle that.
I
The
will
the
give you that.
the second most worst possible way to handle that would be to tell the rules lawyer, "Shut his mouth, you're the DM, and do what I say."
Yeah, shut up and do as I say is a quick way to get the game to end, as I
So,
explained in session 1.
the correct way to do it is look as a DM, you have 2 options. You either listen to the rules lawyer, like we talked about, sometimes they're right and they're good, and you say, "Okay, you got a point there, let's do this." But the trick is, folks, it doesn't matter if you're right or wrong, just make a ruling and then say, "We'll talk about it after the combat's over or after the session."
Exactly, we touched on that
Just
just a
make a
little bit
ruling.
ago.
Make a ruling. Just pick something, right or
Yep, just
wrong. I would rather I would rather have to hold somebody back from making too many decisions than I would have to kick their ass into making a decision at all.
yeah, exactly,
So, any
exactly.
more, Mike? Any other
Oh,
humdingers
yeah,
for
I
me?
got a few more, actually. The bard accidentally starts a tavern riot.
How do you handle that right? Hey, roll initiative. We're having some combat, folks.
Yeah, exactly.
And, also when the combat's over, there's going to be consequences for that.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the town guard got pissed off because you started a fight in his tavern. Maybe one of the patrons in the tavern was a royal messenger who now can't go to work because you broke his leg. Maybe the tavern owner just suffered, had just lost some money in a gambling incident, and now you just busted up his tavern and he can't afford to replace it. So the tavern shuts down.
Absolutely,
And
and
he
then
can't,
all of the miners are pissed off that they can't have their drinks after
yeah,
work,
I
so
mean,
they chase you out of town.
or, maybe that barkeep paid protection money to a local thieves guild. And now that you started a riot inside his bar, the thieves guild's after you because they
Yep,
are
they
protecting
send
that
Fat
tavern.
Rocco and Slim Louie after you.
Yeah. So again, consequences. You know, the poor way to handle that would, I don't know that there is what's the what do you think the poor
Well,
way is?
I would say the poor way to handle that would be the DM punishing the party with an instant unavoidable death or confiscating player agency, like having guards suddenly storm in and immediately cast hold person on everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Folks, guards are low level characters.
That
Just an
they
FYI.
are. All right, next up. A player comes up with a brilliant, unexpected solution to a complicated problem that you created.
You absolutely let that solution stick
Mhm.
because, sometimes you're the best laid plans of mice and men. The players are sometimes smarter than you DMs. I'm sorry. Your egos can't be that big.
Absolutely, they
You,
are.
you
We
gotta,
reward that creativity.
You gotta reward creativity. At the same time, though, sometimes people can be creatively stupid. And and
Or
if
stupidly
you've
creative.
yeah, so if you've got and I'll use this as an instance, if you've got a character who can meld into stone and bypass a elaborately beautiful room that you have laid out as a puzzle, you have every right as a DM to say, "No, you can't meld into this stone to bypass the room."
This is a
Because you
type
want
of stone that you can't meld.
yeah, I mean, you can make that shit up, that's fine. But at the same time, if your player, walks up and immediately solves the puzzle in, like, a half a second that you laid out and you thought would take them a good long while to do, which actually happened in your campaign, I was not paying any attention to the game when I realized that all the players couldn't solve this puzzle, and I walked up and solved it in, like, 10 seconds. And,
Yep.
you know, the right thing to do is to let it happen. The wrong thing to do is to be like, "Oh, that's not the answer," and then quickly change the answer to make them work for it, which I've seen DMs do.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. That's not how I wrote it is not a good excuse.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
Absolutely. Now, player character dies unexpectedly.
Oh, well, did they do something to die unexpectedly, or was it like, eh
Well, we'll say in this instance specifically, it was the fault of no one but the dice.
hmm, okay, well, I think as a good DM, you let that player die, and you hope that your table will mourn that character's passing.
For sure.
Um,
Absolutely. Hope
and
is the word
there
there.
can be there can be nothing more rewarding than seeing the players at your table mourn the loss of one of the other characters, one of the other players' characters. And I lost a character recently in your campaign,
That you
and
did.
nobody cared,
Mm.
and, like, I mean, they tried to take me up to resurrect me and all that, and when they found out they couldn't, nobody really cared, and it hurt a little. I was like, "I really thought Sariana was something fun and special and had a unique personality, and everybody liked her, but nobody gave a shit." And I was like, "It's okay, I'll just write about her instead, it's fine." But yeah, I mean, you just let that character die, and, you know, too many times if you try to save a character from death because the dice were unkind, then players will start to expect it, and then when somebody actually does really die because they deserved it, they're gonna be like, "Well, you brought so and so back, why won't you bring me back?" I mean, it is what it is.
It is
So,
what it is indeed. All right. Last one.
'kay.
The final boss gets obliterated in a single round.
Oh,
How would you handle that well, first of all?
well, the best way to handle that is the boss got obliterated in a single round.
Yeah.
Make sure your boss has mooks. He needs
Yeah.
he needs accomplices, he needs, cannon fodder, and you need to recalibrate the way you make bosses if your boss got killed in 1 round. Now, you absolutely, as a dungeon master, have the right to not tell your characters how much hit points they have.
Yeah.
So, if you
And I
feel like
abused the hell out of that right.
yeah, if you feel that your BBEG that just got annihilated in 1 turn doesn't deserve to die yet, let him live another turn. You know, just keep him going, keep him fighting, have him teleport out. You can do all those things if you want, but I would suggest just letting him go. And as a good DM, give your players the win, celebrate their creativity and their ingenuity for however they did it. And then, maybe he's got a son now that's seeking vengeance and he's
A
coming
little
after you.
stereotypical, but okay.
No,
Yeah,
stereotypes
yeah.
exist for a reason.
I would argue that you should embrace it and let the players have their moment. Give them that hype.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. They deserve it.
Yeah.
All right, Mike. This has been a hell of an episode. This is way
Yes, it
longer than I thought
has.
it would be. I thought this was going to be like a 45-minute if that, but man, we've been going and going and going.
Well, we piled a lot of stuff in there.
We did. So, folks, if you're interested in being a dungeon master, I would love to give you advice all day long. So reach out to us, arguingwithdragons@gmail.com, facebook.com/arguingwithdragons, Instagram at arguingwithdragons, TikTok at arguingwithdragons. I mean, it's everywhere. Folks, just feel free to hit us up. Smash the like button on our Facebook page. Follow us, please. More followers we have, the more cool stuff we can do and provide to you online. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Next week, folks, we are going to have a guest on the show. Matt Carson, who we interviewed over at Midwest Game Fest, is going to come on for a deep dive. He's a freelance author, published writer, and game content aficionado.
Mhm.
His newest book, Access Point, which I just purchased today on 5/13/26, and should be here tomorrow. It just released, and he's gonna come on the show and talk about it. We're gonna deep dive. We're gonna hear more about Matt than we did at Midwest Game Fest, I hope, and be a good time to catch up with our friend.
Absolutely, and bonus, he's one of our 3 listeners.
Oh, yeah, just there's 3 out there, folks, and to all 3 of you, I'm glad you stuck around this long.
Yeah.
So also on our calendars, folks, June 6th, we will be live at the Quad Con in Burlington, Iowa, which is a regional convention for, cosplay and collectibles mainly. We're gonna be doing some interviews there, giving out some t-shirts, and hopefully getting some more folks interested in what we do as podcasters.
Yeah.
So, Mike, you got any fun facts you want to leave us with today?
Yeah, actually, Jack Black's mother basically made space travel possible.
Oh man, I would love to hear how.
Would you?
I would.
Okay, then I'll tell you.